RogueBlox could genuinely be the biggest Roblox game of the summer, and I'm gonna tell you exactly why. Before we get too ahead of ourselves, if you didn't know, RogueBlox is a roguelike RPG taking inspiration from games like Rogue Lineage, Deepwoken, and Terraria in order to deliver a unique experience with engaging systems. Today we will be going over the game's progression, combat, classes, races, SubRaces, Relics, and lastly, my favorite, artifacts. So make sure to watch till the end, or else you might miss out on a lot of information, plus a secret at the end of the video. Without further ado, here goes the RogueBlox Direct Overanalyzed. Firstly, we will be going into Permadeath and general information. In the words of the owner himself, RogueBlox is a permadeath RPG with class-based progression. Players will be able to explore a very big map, complete quests, as well as fight players and monsters. The permadeath system gives a player 3 lives, while certain races may have more or less lives. You can restore them with a life crystal, which you get via rare drops in a variety of ways, through a variety of loot pools, or by collecting remnants to craft one. I heavily recommend you stock up on these life crystals, as they're going to be very handy. One very interesting thing about the hearts in RogueBlox is that the GUI can change in appearance slightly depending on your subrace, which we will get into later in the video. Building onto the live system, in the case that your character loses all of its lives, you wake up in a place called the Crimson. When you wake up in the Crimson, you will have earned currency called memories that you can use to upgrade your character for every future life. You simply get memories by progressing your character, and then you are rewarded with memories for as far as you got progressed in your last life. This is very similar to the Echo system from Deepwoken. It's worth mentioning you can also use memories to reroll your race, and I have to give the dev team respect for allowing ways to avoid heavy microtransactions. It makes it such a better, more enjoyable experience to play, like the fact that you don't have to pay for race rerolls, that there's an in-game way to do that. Moving on from the live system, there is a fast travel mechanic in RogueBlox that I'd love to talk about. Through the direct, we know that these are called fast travel pylons, and that they save across characters and slots, which also means they need to be separately unlocked, every pylon, to my assumption. While this may simply be speculation, they could maybe work something like Elden Ring's fast travel system, where you stumble upon a fast travel pylon, a fast travel point, and unlock it, and then from there on you can fast travel between that point and any other point you may have unlocked. Now I'd like to talk about quality of life in the progression. So, previously in RogueBlox, in the testing stages and whatnot, finding NPCs were previously very difficult in a very secretive part of the game that people would love to gatekeep and not tell people. So the developers decided to make it so once you talk to an NPC, you can see where they're located in something called a codex. And if you talk to an NPC that mentions another NPC, the NPC that they mentioned will also be in your codex, which will help you locate them, which I think is just such a cool thing. Next up, progression. The progression is very similar to Rogue Lineages, with the classic base class, super class, and ultra classes obtainable. Alternatively, players will be able to stop at super class and get a second super class to become a hybrid. There are 5 weapon types with exceptions, that being swords, daggers, spears, fists, and guns. Base class abilities can only be used with the respective weapon, so you cannot use swords base class abilities with fists. Now moving on to armors, there are 3 slots, a head, a chest, and leg slots, all with a vanity slot as well, which personally I love for customization purposes, and all these armor slots grant certain stats and resistances, and some armor can even have passives, which is just great for build diversity, like who knows what you can make. The developers stated that they made a progression system where players can progress through a variety of ways, like PvP, PvE, mining, and even gambling. That's insane. Boasting about how many different ways there are to progress at your own pace with unique rewards for each progression style, which absolutely makes me overjoyed with the release of the game being tomorrow. To be able to have a game that offers this much freedom is genuinely refreshing. I'd like to note they mention about adding a fishing and cooking path as well. Going deeper into the progression system, getting respective classes requires experience, alignment, and silver. Experience being just XP, silver being the currency of the game, and alignment being split up into 3 overarching categories, being Imperial, Neutral State, and Anarchic. Imperial being on the holy end of things, obviously, and Anarchic being, well, associated with anarchy. Moving on from progression, we have the fun part, the combat. So Roblox's combat uses an M1 string with 5 hits, with certain weapons, like in the direct we saw a shotgun, having 4. You also have a critical attack that guard breaks you can use with M2 or R. There are also defensive options, that being block, dash, perfect block, and mana shield. If you time a block just before a critical attack hits you, you perfect block it, stunning your opponent, giving you an interval to attack. During any stun Roblox, there is an escape window where you can block or dash during the split-second interval to escape. Dashing notably seems to give you some degree of iframes, meaning you can't get hit during it if you time it right. Now on to the next defensive option, mana shields. When you hold G, you have access to your mana bar, which will fill up. You can then hold the block button with mana charge in order to use a mana shield. A mana shield lets you block super level mage spells, it lets you negate chip damage, like block chip damage, and prevent attacks from behind. So a mana shield is very diverse, and you want your mana charge in a fight, and they mentioned that in the direct. That's a big part of the combat. Moving on with the combat, one of the main appealing aspects of combat is the aerial combat that you initiate by uppercutting your opponent. Similarly to Deepwoken, uppercut is performed by Control M1, and alternatively mid-air you can do the same thing to slam the opponent down. Uppercuts can be used as a counter when an opponent attempts a jump attack. Let me know what you guys think about the game's combat and progression below. I personally think it incorporates aspects of both Deepwoken and Rogue Lineage's combat and kind of puts a good twist on both of them, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Now getting on to the more fun stuff, we got out of the boring stuff, the progression, the combat, we're into the races. To my knowledge, some of the races are Phantom, Nomad, Florian, and Elf. Races aren't exactly build defining, but they may be better for a certain playstyle, like I'm sure an elf is better for mages, for example. Each race has a special set of actives and passives that you unlock as you progress and survive. I'm going to assume with how much inspiration it takes from Rogue Lineage, it'll be based off your days. And me being xPhantom on YouTube, xPhantom being my gamer tag, I'm respectfully going to have to go the Phantom race. Like, it'd be a shame to my bloodline if I didn't. Now that we're through with the races, we have the really fun part. SubRaces. There is 3 SubRaces in the game to our knowledge currently, which all drastically change how the game's mechanics affect you. In return, provide you with unique skills and passives, unlocking a lot of build diversity. The Bloodthirsty subrace is the first subrace, which is simply just Vampire, which I believe to be the most common. And we can see this through the badge in the group that has the most obtainment. The second subrace is the Dead Man Walking subrace, which is a zombie subrace, we can tell by, again, the badge. And last but certainly not least, the Heliorgic Metamorphosis subrace. Forgive me if I butchered that, I really don't know. This name means a metamorphosis of being heated by the sun. So in simple terms, this subrace has powers of the sun and undergoes a transformation. Visually, its abilities have been compared to Hamon from JoJo, but in actual practice, it's apparently not really like Hamon at all. And to my knowledge, spec users may have a true version of this subrace. I don't know how confirmed that is, I just heard that. And additionally, while we're observing these badges, there's a badge titled Manifestation with the description saying, "A dormant rune has appeared on your hand. Soon your potential will be revealed." Which just sounds so cool. Like, from that description alone, I assume this may have something to do with a very rare relic or an artifact, but it could also be something with like legendary spells or a rare weapon. Regardless, I cannot wait to get on the game and find out for myself. Going into more build-defining aspects, we have Reforges, which is a weapon or equipment prefix that allows us to change the stat spread on a given item. Some items found in chests or dropped from mobs can have Reforges on them already, but we will also be able to use certain items to modify them ourselves. Now we have Enchants. Enchants are modifiers giving weapons special abilities. Some may be status effects, while others may have a more profound effect, like changing your critical attack. Cole mentions in the direct that while Enchants may feel like one small part of a build, with all these different aspects coming into play, when combined with one of endless relic combinations, it can take your build to another level. Now, moving on from Enchants, we have my favorite portion, which is the Relics. Quoting directly from the direct, relics are special items we can equip to grant ourselves unique abilities and passives. Examples are a double jump or a lifesteal effect when opponents bleed, which gives you HP back when they bleed. Relics can synergize with each other and status effects. There are 3 relic slots. Each relic slot has a star value from 1 to 4. So, for example, I'd assume that the double jump ability we saw in the trailer, the direct, was more of 1 to 2 stars, definitely not on the higher end. And this star value is based off its strength and utility usage. The relic slots have a cap of 4 stars, meaning the sum of all 3 relics you have equipped has to be rated 4 or less. So you can have one that's 3 and one that's 1, that kind of thing. And although they mentioned there is a way to increase this number of like your max stars per 3 slots, but obviously we don't know how to get that. The best part of all this, and why this is my favorite aspect of the game besides artifacts, is there are 60 relics in this game. You heard me right, 60 interchangeable special abilities and gimmicks that you can add to your character. Because ultimately that's what it is, you're just making gimmicks for your character in your build to make it specific to you, and that's what makes it so fun. If you do the math, that means there is thousands of interchangeable combinations for each build. Now, when you combine this with enchants, races, subraces, reforges, and classes, the build creation potential is truly endless. Just as they said themselves, they have given us the tools to make a build that best represents your given playstyle, ensuring that for the most part, unless you intentionally do so, no 2 builds should be the same. Wrapping up with relics, we have the artifacts. And if you're wondering what I mean by quote-unquote artifacts, in RogueBlox the artifacts are comparable. To Rogue Lineage's edicts, although with artifacts you don't need to wipe in order to obtain them, and I don't think you need to progress them either like you do in Rogue Lineage. And in RogueBlox, if your journey does not end so well, like you end up getting wiped, then you keep your artifact. You don't lose it. Meaning artifacts are going to be highly sought after, and at the moment very little is known about them currently, but what we do know is that there are very rare books that we can stumble upon in the world of Terra called Ancient Rite Volume. To my knowledge, these volumes can come in 3 varieties. Volume 1 being the Ribcage artifact, Volume 2 being widely unknown, and Volume 3 being Time Master. Artifacts are certainly going to be the most sought after things in RogueBlox, besides potentially the light subrace that we mentioned earlier. While I personally don't know very much about them, I believe it was confirmed that the Ribcage artifact, when obtained, gives you immunity to being block broken for a duration, and then it recharges for a bit before you can use it again. And I think visually it might be comparable to like a partial Susano Ribcage, but do not quote me on that. That is purely speculation, and based on the badge, we can see that it appears to look like that as well. Purely speculating, I'm gonna assume that the 3rd volume, being Time Master, has something to do with manipulating time or reducing debuffs, but, you know, who would have thought that the time thing does something with time. But anyway, that's genuinely all I have on artifacts, and as it wasn't touched upon in the direct for a reason, I want to give you guys, the players, something to look forward to searching out, and myself something to look forward to looking into. I know I said artifacts was last, but I had one more surprise for you guys. I went through and organized a list of fun facts you might all enjoy. Release is only 1 day away. July 11th, here we come. This game reminds me of Rogue Lineage, but it also reminds me quite a lot of Deepwoken, which I used to play quite often. And one of my favorite memories was blowing up recording my first solo attempt at Etheron, and you can watch it here. That being said, if you enjoyed my content, make sure to join the family by subscribing, or else you could miss out on banger content like this in the future. Make sure to like the video to show support. Make sure to comment your thoughts on this game coming out, what kind of videos you'd like to see next, your thoughts about the progression, the classes, the relics, the artifacts, the subraces, attainment methods, literally everything. I want to hear everything. Let me know in the comments. I actually had to remake this entire video partway through due to the entire script that I spent well over an hour making, getting deleted, and not being savable. But point aside, I had a lot of fun making this, and I hope you enjoy this too, because a lot of effort does go into this for me, especially with being in college, and I'd love for you guys to join the family. So subscribe, let me know what you thought, and have a good one. Peace.